WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 o'clock in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world. We are live on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegal and the European Union renew partnership to strengthen development in key sectors.
Now the partnership, which is covering a lot of important economic issues and which is aligned with the ideas Senegal 2050, which is promoting an ungenerous growth for Senegal.
Coalition of CSOs in Niger embarks on a peaceful march to mark the first anniversary of the AES Confederation. President Mahama calls on AU to invest in infrastructure to harness after's protection or potentials for intra-trade.
The African Continental Free Trade Area has set the foundation for a single African market, but much work remains to be done. We must address the barriers to trade. We must harmonize regulatory framework.
And leadership of Gambia's APRC denies Jammeh's claim of taking over control the party. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
A warm welcome to our listeners within the sub-region and beyond. Newslink begins in Dakar as the state of Senegal and the European Union have renewed partnerships to strengthen development in key sectors. This renewed commitment was made on Tuesday in Dakar during a political dialogue in which Senegalese authorities exchanged deeper information with the European Union team in Senegal. The Vision Senegal 2050 Development Strategy and other sustainable measures to achieve such development plan were key on the agenda. The partnership dialogue also focused on the economic and financial situation in Senegal, addressing the business climate, job creation, and the strategic modernization of public services. In an interview with WADR, the European Union ambassador to Senegal, Jean-Marc Pisani, expressed the EU's commitment to assisting Senegal in achieving its Vision 2050 agenda. He also pledged support for tackling the root cause of migration.
It's a partnership with Senegal, a long-standing partnership that the European Union has with Senegal. Now the partnership, which is covering a lot of important economic issues and which is aligned with the ideas, which is called now the new paper of reference, Senegal 2050, which is promoting an ungenerous growth for Senegal, and we are very much supporting Senegal with their ideas as referred in this document, this important document, which is called Vision Senegal 2050. A lot of activities, the green transition, for instance, is important. The renewable energy are equally important. The competitiveness and the growth in order to benefit to the population, the young population of Senegal, which is at the heart of the partnership between the European Union and Senegal.
You talk about the young people, the issue about migration, young people trying to go to European countries. How does the European Union intend to address this issue?
In the European Union, we have a comprehensive approach on migration, which is covering all fields of migration, and we have regular exchange of views with Senegal in order to support them and to develop a common approach on migration.
European Union Ambassador to Senegal, Jean-Marc Pisani. Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama has urged the African Union AU to invest heavily in the potentials of the continent's youthful population and general infrastructure in order to harmonize protocols in the African Continental Free Trade Area for the continent's economic independence. Speaking at a high-level retreat on AU institutional reform held in Nairobi, President Mahama underscored the importance of the continent's economic independence. He further called on the AU to strengthen its capacity to prevent, mediate and resolve conflict by resourcing the African Standby Force and leveraging partnerships to address emergency threats such as terrorism and cybercrime.
Your Excellencies, without peace there can be no development. The AU must strengthen its capacity to prevent, mediate and resolve conflicts. This includes adequately resourcing the African Standby Force and leveraging partnerships to address emergency threats such as terrorism, cybercrime, and climate-induced displacements. Indeed, this is very important for us, especially in West Africa, considering the challenge we face from terrorism. Africa's future lies in its youth. Over 60% of our population is under the age of 25, and yet their voices are largely absent in policymaking. We must institutionalize frameworks that empower our young people and our women to lead at all levels of governance. And I'm happy to report that in the last election, for the first time in Ghana's history, we elected a woman as our vice president. The energy of our youth, creativity and vision are the drivers of the Africa that we all seek to build. The African Continental Free Trade Area has set the foundation for a single African market, but much work remains to be done. We must address the barriers to trade, we must harmonize regulatory framework and invest in infrastructure to unlock the potential of intra-African trade. Additionally, the AU must champion technological innovation and digital transformation as catalysts for economic growth and inclusion. And in this, we wish that the African payment system that allows us to pay seamlessly for goods traded between our countries is expedited so that we can have a system of exchange.
Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama. Meanwhile, international relations expert Dr. Michael Nketia says the over-reliance on foreign aid and support has made the African Union a shadow of itself. His reaction follows the statement of Ghana's President John Mahama linking the regional bloc's challenge to reliance on foreign aids. According to Dr. Nketia, the bloc has more than enough resources to develop the region in special areas needing intervention.
Since its establishment and even in modern times, the African Union has solely been dependent on foreign aid, either financially, militarily, or logistically. Even if in our current dispensation, if you look at the headquarters of the African Union in Addis Ababa, it was built by the Chinese and donated to the continent. And in countries where issues of conflict, instability, civil wars have broken out. The Democratic Republic of Congo, for instance, the peacekeeping mission there is a United Nations peacekeeping mission in part of the Sahelian states where we had the MINUSMA. These were all United Nations funded peacekeeping missions. And it's quite frightening that a continent with about 60 or so countries, sovereign states, fully independent, with abundance of resources, years and decades of democratic rule and establishment, we have failed woefully in mobilizing resources to pursue the African Union agenda of economic integration and then also guaranteeing the peace and security of Africa. It is hard time that members of the African Union and by extension all sovereign states on the continent.
And that international relations expert Dr. Michael Nketia.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's turn attention to Mali now because the Malian army has announced the neutralization of Abu Azimen, an influential local jihadist leader, during an operation carried out in the Ishel sector, north of Niafunke in the Timbuktu region, north. Jihadist leader Abu Azimen was neutralized during an operation led by the Malian Armed Forces former, which also resulted in the elimination of several individuals, the destruction of logistics plots and the seizure of various equipment including components used in the manufacturing of improvised explosive devices IEDs. Echiatiso completes the story.
Abu Aziman was wanted for multiple abuses against civil populations and repeated attacks against Malian military positions, the General Staff of the Armed Forces said in a statement. During this intervention, Malian forces intercepted a DJI drone bearing the inscription CSPDPA, a name that until recently referred to the alliance of northern rebel groups. This name was replaced in recent weeks by that of the Azawad Liberation Front, FLA. This neutralization is part of a series of operations carried out by the Malian army to secure the Timbuktu region, where armed groups continue to operate despite an intensification of military actions. On January 3, the farmer captured Mohammed Oud Ekehil, alias Abu Rakia, a leader of the Islamic State in the Sahel, ISIS, near Borem in the Gao region. This arrest adds to the recent successes of the Malian forces in the fight against terrorism, notably with the surrender of several fighters in the Gouma region last December. These operations take place in the context of growing power of the Malian army determined to weaken the terrorist groups active in the north of the country.
Eche Atiso filed the report. Still in the Sahel, but this time around turning attention to Niger, civil society organizations united in coalition today mobilized its population to march across the principal streets of Niger to mark the first anniversary of the AES Confederation following their departure from ECOWAS. Our correspondent in Niger, Mutala Ziberu, sent in this report and voiced by Augustine Coley.
According to the Coalition of Civil Society Organizations, the first anniversary of the withdrawal of the 3 AES countries deserves to be celebrated with demonstrations in the 3 member countries. Hassan Boubacar is the Secretary General of the Coalition of Nigerian Civil Society Organizations.
Si nous étions sortis spontanément le 28 janvier 2024,
if we had a spontaneous situation on January 28, 2024, why should we wait until January 28, 2025 to act? This is because we are indefinitely out of ECOWAS. That is why the coalition deemed it necessary to hold this press conference to unite all civil society structures and various social and professional groups in Niger. This is to respond to the call for sovereignty, the call for independent union, the call for self-determination, and to counter imperialist interference, including from France and NATO, which are undermining our sovereignty. We are saying a definitive no to ECOWAS.
Contre l'ingérence de l'OTAN dont l'épicentre est la CEDEAO pour défendre la souveraineté, pour dire non définitivement à la CEDEAO.
It should be noted that this march, followed by a rally, aims to support the definitive withdrawal of the AES countries from ECOWAS as decided by the 3 heads of state of the Sahel Confederation on January 29, 2024.
And that's Mutala Zuberi's report and voiced by Augustine Coley. In other news, Sierra Leone's Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education (MBSSE) has committed $6.7 million to breaking barriers to education for girls and vulnerable groups in 2025. A key highlight of this initiative is the $1 million allocation for welfare and hygiene packages aimed at improving girls' retention and academic success in junior and senior secondary schools. The ministry's ambitious targets, including enabling 70,000 girls to pass the Basic Education Certificate Examination (BECE) and 75,000 to qualify for university admission via OSIWA by the end of 2025. These measures are part of a broader effort to address gender disparity and ensure equitable access to education in Sierra Leone. You're still listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting live on 94.9 FM Dakar and via our partner radio stations across the sub-region, as well as live on all social media platforms, Facebook at WADR News English service, as well as YouTube WADR News. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegal and the European Union renew partnership to strengthen development in key sectors. Coalition of CSOs in Niger embarks on a peaceful march to mark the first anniversary of the AES Confederation. President Mahama calls on AU to invest in infrastructure to harness Africa's potential for intra-trade. Still ahead in this news, leadership of the Gambia APRC denies Jammeh's claim of taking control over the party. We also have the guest interview and sports news, so please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Let's turn attention to other developments coming in from Liberia, because President Joseph Boakai has delivered his annual State of the Nation's address to the nation, highlighting road construction, healthcare services as his major achievement. This comes as Liberians await the timely resolution of inclusive development from President Boakai and his government as it works to confronting challenges in the country, even as citizens strive for better, more peaceful, sustainable and inclusive global community. Grace Joshua in Monrovia completes the story.
Article 58 of the Liberia Constitution mandates the President to deliver an annual message outlining the legislative agenda and to report on the state of the economies as well as the general affairs of the Republic. According to President Bouaka, his first 100 days in office addressed the people's needs and aspiration, providing relief from years of hardship and uncertainty.
The security of the state and the sanctity of our Republic, though may be assailed, may be threatened, however, it can never be broken. No one's personal ambition can ever outweigh the importance of our peace and security. We started with a 100-day plan.
President Joseph Bouaka highlighted immense challenges, adding that the country stands in between places today than when it first began, noting that in the year under review, he issued 14 executive orders addressing the urgent needs of the government, including establishing the Office of the War and Economics Crime Court and the National Railway Authority. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Grace Joshua in Monrovia.
Let's turn attention to the Gambia at the moment because the deputy spokesperson of the Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction, APRC, Dodu Ja, says former President Yahya Jammeh does not own any political party in the Gambia. This comes amid Jammeh's recent comment that he has reclaimed his party's leadership. However, the current APRC deputy spokesperson speaking on a local TV station said Jammeh has no legal means to own a party.
When Jammeh said that we were expelled, they made a list of executive members that are going to replace us, and it was sent to the IEC. The IEC told them, no, we can't recognize this. Political parties don't change their executive this way. One person said they are removed and these are the new executive. You go to Congress. If you want to change a whole executive committee, you go to Congress, of which the IEC will be present. So the rules are there, and they are the referees. So when Jammeh comes out and make a speech, maybe the No to Alliance, they're not legally registered anywhere. So IEC has no say in what the No to Alliance does, etc. Because anywhere they want to put up a candidate, the candidate is independent. Yeah. They don't use APRC. Because legally, it is us who are in charge of APRC. He did not use No to Alliance. He's saying APRC, my party. And an individual cannot own a party. It's only Jammeh you listen to, it tells you my party. I've not had any other leader in this country. Now, according to the laws of this country, an individual cannot own a party. Even to register a political party, if you are alone, you go for independent. Because there's a list of executive members' names you need to fill in. There are other criteria you need to follow. So as an individual, be it Jammeh or whoever, you cannot own a party. You can be the leader, you can be the founder, I am the pioneer, all these titles fits in, but it cannot be yours legally.
And that was the voice of the deputy spokesperson of the Alliance for Patriotic Reorientation and Construction of the Gambia, Dodu Ja. Let's turn attention to Cote d'Ivoire at the moment because the price of a ton of cement has been reduced by 7,000 CFA francs as part of efforts to combat the high cost of living. This reduction was announced through an interministerial decree dated December 26, 2024 and signed by the Minister of Commerce and Industry, Suleimana Jarasuba, and the Minister of Finance and Budget, Adama Coulibaly. The new cement prices are now applicable nationwide. Consumers associations were quick to respond to this measure. Albin Ade provides more details in this report voiced by Abdullah Hassan.
According to the government's decision, the maximum prices including tax per ton of cement are set between 95,000 and 99,000 CFA francs delivered to the factory. At wholesalers, the price of a ton of cement is set between 97,000 and 101,000 CFA francs, while the price of a ton of cement at retail is between 102,000 CFA francs and 106,250 CFA francs. A decision welcomed by the President of the General Union of Consumers of Cote d'Ivoire, Nguesson Kwaku.
The decision is welcomed and could be interesting as it allows us to buy cement at a slightly lower cost. We still find it expensive, but with the right policies, if prices can continue to decrease, it will benefit the purchase of cement. We always ask for more. We want the price to be 60,000 CFA francs as it was in the past, or at least 70,000 CFA francs. The government should ensure this 7,000 CFA francs reduction is effective and sustainable.
However, Ngweson Kwaku hopes that the measure will be extended to other products in this period of high cost of living in the country.
Rice and soup are essential goods. If we can get a good deal on these items, it will help the population significantly. Rice is extremely expensive. Once we passed September, the price of rice seemed to have increased even more. It appears that fetch prices have also risen significantly, making it even harder for people to afford. Any reduction in these prices will be a great relief for everyone.
And that was Abinadei's report, voiced by Abdullah Hassan.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Reactions are trailing the speech of President John Dramani Mahama of Ghana, which linked the challenges faced by the African Union to over-dependency on foreign support. In this segment, our guest, a security strategy analyst, Anthony Akwe, speaks to WADR why the regional bloc has to brace up and not rely on foreign aids.
I critically agree to this notion and the position by the President of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, in the sense that these foreign aids, in a way, weakens the leadership of AU. It undermines the AU's ability to project power and negotiation on global platforms. Again, since the AU is being funded by the foreign aid in terms of its security efforts and that of conflict resolution, it becomes very critical for AU to take up these challenges in terms of handling conflicts and security matters independently. And these are very critical issues that weakens the Africa's approach in handling conflict and in handling security matter, because the idea is that the resources that is needed to tackle the issue of insecurity within the continent is coming from the foreign organizations.
What other ways or means can the AU employ to ensure that, like you mentioned, they can also be independent and continue in the intervention efforts across these areas that you have listed?
The AU must take a bold step by increasing the contribution from each member state. One. And the two, the AU must promote intra-Africa trade and economic cooperation. The third one is for them to develop an independent financial institution like Africa Development Bank. And to encourage private sector investment instituted within the AU program.
Does this include the free trade agreement, which has barely started?
That was one of the critical ideas for constituting and, in the first place, establishing, this continental trade center, which, at the end of the day, will bring all member states together in order to promote goods and services that are being produced within the continent. And so I believe that it is up to the AU to strengthen this sector of investment, which will go a long way to help the continent as a whole.
And that's security strategic analyst Anthony Akwe speaking on the essence of homegrown development by the African Union to shun foreign dependency. And it's now time for sports with Sankule Janko.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The final draw of CAF Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025 was concluded on Monday in Rabat, Morocco. The teams were drawn into 6 groups, each containing 4 sides ahead of the 21 December 2025 to 18 January 2026 finals tournament that will be spread across 6 host cities and 9 stadia in Morocco as Africa's best chase the continent's most coveted trophy. Host Morocco headlines Group A and will take on Mali, Zambia and Comoros, Record 7-time winners Egypt face a trio of South African teams in Group B in the form of last year's bronze medalist South Africa, Angola and Zimbabwe. In Group C, Nigeria will lock horns with Tunisia and East African duo of Uganda and Tanzania, who will be CAF AFCON co-host in 2027. The 2021 champions Senegal go up against Democratic Republic of Congo, Benin and Botswana in Group D. Algeria winners in 2019 take on Burkina Faso, Equatorial Guinea and Sudan in an interesting Group E. And defending champions Cote d'Ivoire face old rivals and 5-time winners Cameroon, Gabon and Mozambique in Group F as they look to claim back-to-back titles. The top 2 teams in each pool will advance to the round of 16, along with the 4 best third-place sides. Morocco is hosting the CAF AFCON for the first time since 1988. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we have come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maudu Juf and Umu Danyogo for the technical assistance. Do interact with us on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. I am Christopher Ticho. Good evening and enjoy the rest of our broadcast.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.